Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for having me here. It's a great honor for me to be speaking at your event here. My background is I'm a biomedical engineer, so my talk is going to be slightly more technical from what you heard today, but today the discussions that you've had are extremely important and excellent, and I'll be picking up a bit on what Mary Harney has been saying, like what are the technologies that we can provide to actually improve healthcare and the health systems in the future. Because as you know, medicine, there's an overload, there's a lot of stress for the physicians, for the health systems, and while I have a technical background, I'm moving really into sustainable health systems research, so the discussions here are pretty amazing. So after the break, let me start on a light note. How is technology, how is IBM Watson going to change how we practice medicine today, right? So I found this Dilbert cartoon, and let me talk you through it. So the doctor is reading off the monitor of the computer screen. IBM Watson has diagnosed your symptoms. The computer just ordered the medicines you need. They will be delivered by a drone. You can imagine Amazon drones just delivering meds. And then Dilbert is saying, looks like your job is obsolete. Do we need any doctors in the future? I mean, if the machine is doing it? And then the doctor says, no. You need a doctor and a nurse to make the system work. For example, the computer can't read its own screen and speak those words to patients. Dilbert then says, actually, it can, and yes, IBM Watson can speak in natural language with you, but the computer doesn't have a nurse. So what does the nurse do? And there's the nurse with the syringe on the neck of the doctor saying, if the doctor reads the wrong word off the screen, I'm just going to punch the needle in his neck. Obviously, what does this cartoon show you? One, we can laugh about ourselves a bit, so we don't need to take ourselves too serious, but it illustrates quite important points. How is it going to change? So are supercomputers going to take over decision medicine in the future? The answer is no. Our opinion is that no, supercomputers are not going to take over decision-making medicine. They're assistive systems. So our mission is to serve as catalysts to save and improve lives. And this is from the mission statement of IBM Watson Health. And as you can see, we want to serve and we want to be a catalyst. So we want to improve the work that people are doing to deliver better health to the patients. Now, how serious are we about healthcare? And when we opened the Watson Health business unit, Ginny Rometty said, well, our commitment to health, it's our moonshot. You see, what we've been investing billions of dollars into analytics, cloud, Watson, IoT, Internet of Things. And we really believe that it is going to disrupt how care is experienced, where it is delivered, and how it is paid for. Again, we take a holistic systems approach and view. And you might have heard earlier this year, end of March, the Italian government and IBM were witnessing the signature moment of Watson Health announcing we are going to build a center of excellence here in Europe and in Italy. So we are really engaging with all the players in the health system to improve healthcare. Now, what I want to talk to you about is, big data. You all know we have patient records and patient files. Now the future is if you do sequence your genome, you might be able to be more predictive in what you're going to get. We had a conversation today about outcome-based medicine, personalized medicine. But then there are all these sensors and devices that nowadays you can use to measure your lifestyle. And in fact, it is being said that 60% of this exogenous data, behavioral data, environmental data, demographics, it's going to be contributing to your health outcomes. The issue here is it's a lot of uncertain data, and the amount of data you have to deal with is increasing exponentially. So a human being alone cannot deal with this amount of data. We've been saying this for a number of years. IBM is doing a global technology outlook every year. And in 2012, we already defined big data. It's not just the volumes of data, but it's the speed, the velocity that it's being generated, the variety of it, and the veracity. Can I trust the data? Is the data true? And a year later, it becomes clearer that media, mobile, social media, all this data is going to disrupt healthcare. And we are seeing a transformation where all data sources in registries combined with all the modern sensors and devices and apps that we are having are going to change and really disrupt medicine. So let me start with a story. I mean, we don't need to really try to hit everything in one go. Where do we start? And this is a story by Carolyn McGregor, a very good friend of mine, who's been working with IBM to build a system for the neonatal ICU. So babies that are premature and are experiencing this environment. And that's already a clean picture. It looks often much messier, all these cables, all these devices that are hooked up to the babies. Everything is beeping. It's a stressful situation. And what she's been seeing is that a nurse, and we've been talking about nurses today as well, the lack of nurses and the stressful work. The nurse has to go there every half an hour and write down every value they see on, what is your blood pressure, what is your heart rate, what is your oxygen level in the blood, and so on. And they've been writing this on paper charts. Now, she's been doing this for 5 to 8 years now, and what happens with the data in between? Every half an hour, it's a long time point. And this is the situation there. You have this environment that a nurse, when they care for the baby, need to perceive. They need to understand what is going on and then translate it into a decision and take action to change it. If I have 10 alarms going off around that baby, what am I going to do? So what we developed together was, okay, with our stream computing capabilities, we actually hook up all these different devices that you see, the IV pump, the oxygen saturation monitor, the ventilator, the ECG, and blood pressure monitor. And on the right, you see these are just different plots of the values over time, and you see it's time in seconds. And you see, okay, there are different alerts in between. If a nurse just walks in every half an hour, she's missing all these alerts, all these things that could be fatal to the patient or tell us what to do. Now we are combining the data. This is already starting to be big data because it's so fast and produced in real time. And we use cognitive computing algorithm, cognitive because we understand, we see patterns to say something about future events in the baby. So actually what Carolyn was able to show with our system, that she could identify 24 to 48 hours in advance fungal infections in babies. Now infections in those babies, they are fatal, they die. Carolyn is from Australia originally, and if they're on the countryside, there are no big hospitals that could take care of a baby when they have an infection. So this can really save lives. And not only can it save lives, it takes away all the work the nurses have in walking to the patient's bed, writing down these numbers, making errors because they're tired, and so on and so forth. You can build a cockpit at a nurse's station, so when an alarm goes off, she already knows what is going on, and it's taking off the workload the nurse has in her daily life. So this is a great example of what we can do already today, very mature. But how does it look like in the future? We have all this different data, structured and unstructured. Structured is fairly easy to deal with because it's structured, but what about natural language? All the doctor's letters, there's so much information. The best example is, are you a smoker? People say no, and then in the conversation, oh, I've been smoking for 20 years and I stopped smoking 2 months ago. So that would categorize the patient into a smoker. So structured and unstructured data is being stored in a cloud environment. Obviously, it's compliant on the regulations and it's specific country to country. But data itself, you know, if you store it, it's nice, it's fine, but you need to do something with the data. You need to create the insights, and we developed advanced analytics and cognitive solutions to gain insights from the data, and not only just chunks of the data, but holistically all of the data, to deliver solutions. And now the solutions can vary. You have individuals. I like to speak really about the citizen, because it's not anymore about you get sick and you get treated, but you want to maintain your health. So the citizen, the individual, has got an interest in this. Obviously, the researchers that are interested in the disease, what are the mechanisms of disease, what drugs can we develop to actually tackle those diseases. Government, of course, has an interest in this. Payers, providers, and pharma companies as well. But all these different stakeholders need a different view on the data and might have different requirements, and the solutions delivered to them can be managed in this environment. So to go a bit deeper into what is the data that the cloud can store, obviously payments and claims, if you're working in insurance, that gives a lot of information. Lab tests, clinical data, exogenous data, devices, and genomic data. But also what we are integrating is publications, scientific publications, textbooks, guidelines, Twitter, Facebook, even the weather company's data. I mean, I just read today that the WHO is saying weather and climate change has a huge impact on your health. So we have this data, and we create insights. The solutions from discovery solutions, okay, what is the next drug that I can develop that targets a specific disease? To real-world evidence, okay, now in the whole population I released the drugs, is it really effective? Clinical trials are also very well managed. Is it effective in the real world? Do I get adverse effects right away? To patient management and condition-specific care, what I mentioned before, you want to move from reactive sick care to proactive health management, right? And social programs as well. So you can see there's the whole spectrum, a holistic systems view of what we can provide and look at. Now, what is Watson? So Watson is the start of, or the center for our cognitive systems, where it understands natural languages, so we can speak, we can have a dialogue with the system, and the system actually understands what we are saying. Human-style communication, which is very effective. Based on what Watson understands, evidence is looked at, and hypotheses are being created and scored and presented as a result to the doctors, who then can score or say, adapt, interact with the system. And that's the key point. It's a learning system. The system can only learn if you interact with it. So again, the system is working with the humans, with the doctors, with the nurses to improve. And what is unique about these cognitive systems, because they learn, they get better from day to day. It's not, you don't install it and they get worse and worse and worse, but they get better and better and better. Now, this slide again shows all the different sources of data: clinical data, genomic data, exogenous data. But you have medical literature. There are over 2 publications every single minute published on average. What doctor has time in their daily practice to read all those latest articles, all the latest insight, and be up to date? That not everyone can do that. Obviously, the guidelines need to know, and the last one, the institutional knowledge, is hugely important. Let me give you an example. Would you prefer to go to the consultant with 25 years of experience, or to the grad student that just finished medical school and is doing a night shift? Obviously, you would prefer the person with 25 years experience. The only trouble is it takes 25 years to gain that experience. Now, we have built a system that through the interaction with those people, you can capture that knowledge, you can capture the expertise in a computer system that makes it available to the young doctors that just finished medical school. So very, very unique and very important aspect. And we've been talking about text a lot, but in the last few years, we manage text. Now we can speak like humans, if you like. we're teaching Watson to see. So talking about big data, this is a CT scan. These are just 64 images. Just 64 images, but I cannot recognize anything there. Of course, I'm not a radiologist. A radiologist might see something, but even radiologists see hundreds of patients each day, hundreds of these images. Their eyes get tired, and it is very hard to really then make, or very easy to make mistakes. So we are actually developing technology that helps radiologists see through those images to highlight regions. Oh, maybe you should look closer at this part of the image because there might be something. So again, it's an assistive system that will help physicians do their work better and improve the quality of care. And I'm coming slowly towards the end. I couldn't stop having slides on emerging sources of data. On the top left, you see Fitbit, social media. But what about smarter homes, home care? We've been talking about, the costs of healthcare in hospitals. If you can keep the patients in their own homes, then you make the system more sustainable. And of course, the mobile devices that we have. Now, this is a screenshot of an app that I use, and this is just to illustrate the usefulness of health apps. I used to run, and captured at kilometer number 7, you see, okay, my velocity dropped. I basically stopped. Now you can say, okay, 7K, this guy was probably not very fit and needed a break, but actually I twisted my ankle pretty badly. I was in the middle of nowhere. I was going cross country. That's why I almost broke my foot. But what does this app help me except for saying, now I can see where I broke my ankle? Not very helpful. So what you need is actually all those apps somehow need to be connected with medical expertise, the human factor, right? Ideally, I would have pressed the button and called my physician and said, like, look, shall I call an ambulance? Well, I kept running. Unfortunately, I only had a slightly torn tendon. But again, there are hundreds of thousands of health apps out there. If you develop a new health app, you need to think about how do you actually employ it in the system and what is the value of it. We are working on some projects where we are using these apps to capture the wellness level, and given the wellness level, there are certain events that you can capture, and it's like if you go to the gym, right? You have a workout plan, but every other week you need to change it because you got fitter, because you got stronger, you can lift more weights, and so on and so forth. So we can use all this data to really start deliver personalized medicine, not just on a sequential basis, but on everyday life. So we have a lot of data, we have analytics to create information. Our cognitive systems allow us now to generate knowledge and make the data transparent. It's about situational awareness. It's about making all the information transparent and accessible to the physician that treats the patient. But the patient is at the center. So I don't know if you've read this book, The Emperor of All Maladies. It won the Pulitzer Prize. It's the Biography of Cancer. It's an amazing book. And it's written by an oncologist who says medicine begins with storytelling. It begins with the patient. Everyone has their stories. And for us, IBM Research in Healthcare, it's about automating the interpretation of these stories and to provide the right evidence and the right insights and the right service at the right time for the patient, with the patient at the center. Supercomputers are not going to take over decision-making in medicine. It is man and machine. It is augmenting what the human being can do. And I'd like to close with just one word, think. Think is in the DNA of IBM, and it's always about the human being, the physician treating the patient, to think about what is the right thing, and the computers can help improve and augment the health status of those patients. So thank you very much for your attention.